Ethan hadn't smiled in 3 years, and the reason why would break anyone. Every morning, before the sun fully rose, Ethan would untie the rope from the wooden post and push his small boat into the water. The river was calm most days, almost peaceful, reflecting the sky like a mirror. Villagers trusted him. They stepped into his boat without hesitation, knowing he would take them safely across. To them, Ethan was reliable, quiet, strong, but none of them knew the truth. Ethan wasn't just carrying people across the river, he was carrying guilt, the kind that doesn't fade with time, the kind that grows heavier each day. It had been 3 years, but to Ethan, it still felt like yesterday. The memory was sharp, alive, unforgiving. He could still hear Noah's voice, young, scared, calling his name. He could still feel his brother's hand slipping from his grip as the current pulled harder. "Hold on," Ethan had shouted, but Noah couldn't, and that truth never changed. The river took him, and from that moment on, it took something from Ethan too. Since that day, Ethan stopped laughing. He stopped speaking more than necessary. The man who once filled evenings with stories had become someone who avoided even the simplest conversations. And slowly, silence became his home. Every evening, after the last passenger had crossed, Ethan would sit by the riverbank, staring at the water as it flowed endlessly forward. Sometimes he would pick up small stones and throw them into the river, watching the ripples disappear, as if nothing had ever happened. Just like Noah, gone, but never forgotten. One quiet morning, as a soft mist hovered over the river, a little girl stepped onto his boat. Her name was Leela. She couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 years old, but her eyes held a strange calmness, the kind that made you feel like she understood more than she should. At first, she sat quietly, watching Ethan row, but he didn't realize that one small question was about to change everything. "Why do you look so sad?" she asked. Ethan's hands paused on the oars. The question hit him harder than he expected. No one had ever asked him that. Not like this, not so directly. For a moment, he thought about ignoring it, like he ignored everything else, but something about her voice made it impossible. "I carry something heavy," he said quietly, "from yesterday." Leela frowned slightly. She looked down at his hands, then back at his face. "But your hands are empty," she said. Ethan gave a faint, tired smile. "Not these hands," he replied, "the ones you can't see." For a moment, Leela said nothing. She simply looked at the river, thinking. Then, softly, she spoke. "If your hands are full of yesterday, how will you hold today?" Ethan froze. The oars stopped moving. The boat drifted slightly with the current. Her words echoed in his mind again and again. "If your hands are full of yesterday, how will you hold today?" For the first time in years, Ethan had no answer. The rest of the journey passed in silence, but this silence felt different. It wasn't empty, it was awakening. When they reached the other side, Leela stepped off the boat, then she turned back, looking at him one last time. "Maybe you should let some of it go," she said gently, and then she walked away. Ethan sat there long after she disappeared. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Ethan returned to the riverbank, but this time he wasn't just staring at the water, he was seeing it. The river kept moving forward. It didn't stop. It didn't look back. No matter what fell into it, stones, leaves, memories, It carried everything ahead. It let go. Ethan picked up a small stone and held it tightly in his hand. For years, this is what he had been doing, holding on to something that could never be changed, letting it define him, letting it drown him. But what if he didn't have to anymore? Tears filled his eyes, not just from pain, but from realization. He couldn't save Noah, and that would never change. But maybe he didn't have to keep suffering for it forever. Slowly, Ethan opened his hand and dropped the stone into the river. It disappeared beneath the surface, just like all the others, but this time it felt different, lighter. The next morning, the sun rose just as it always had. The river flowed just as it always had. But Ethan was not the same. He untied the rope, stepped into his boat, and pushed off into the water. As the first group of villagers approached, he looked at them not through the weight of his past, but through the possibility of a new beginning. And then something happened, something that hadn't happened in 3 years. He smiled. It wasn't big, it wasn't perfect, but it was real. And for the first time in a long time, it was enough, because Ethan finally understood something most people spend their entire lives trying to learn. You don't heal by holding on. You heal the moment you decide to let go. Yesterday is not yours to carry. It's yours to learn from. So tell me, what are you still holding on to?